If you've ever played Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, then you know it's a game that takes Mario to many different places. Places like a fighting arena, a deserted island, and even the moon, where each place holds a crystal star that must be collected to unlock the Thousand-Year Door, save Princess Peach, and thus beating the game. Across the game's 8 chapters, there are 7 crystal stars that need to be collected. But what if I told you that you don't need to collect all 7 crystal stars to beat the game? What if I told you that you can beat Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door without collecting any crystal stars? If you don't believe me, then in this video, I'm going to explain and show you exactly how players can beat the game this way. And it's pretty crazy. So crazy that only 2 players are on the leaderboard for this 0 crystal star speedrun category, one of which is JakeBopDart, who helped me with making this video and allowed me to use their game footage. I'm Ty from Press A, and this is the story of beating Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door without any crystal stars. Mario's adventure starts in the town of Rogueport, the hub world of the game, where only minutes in he has to defeat Lord Crump in a tutorial battle, and then has Grumbella join the party. Mario then goes on to accidentally break the contact lens of Zesty, a grumpy 55-year-old toad, which honestly is her fault. This pisses off Zesty, so much that she takes it upon herself to block the entrance to Rogueport's west side, until Mario buys her a new contact lens. But Mario doesn't have the time to order a new contact lens and wait for them to be delivered. Plus, there are other ways to get to the west side of Rogueport, so instead, Mario goes and buys 6 Fright Masks, an item that can scare away all enemies, and 3 Fire Flowers, an item that can inflict fire damage to all enemies. These are items that will be very helpful for the early and mid game. From there, Mario goes and gets robbed, meets Professor Frankly, heads into the sewers, and fights the Goomba trio. Well, actually he scares them away using a Fright Mask. This is a speedrun after all, which makes the Fright Mask one of the most useful items for speedrunners, as they want to avoid as many battles as possible. This means Mario won't be leveling up very much in this run, which will require some interesting strategies for the endgame battles. But when he does level up, the stat to increase is either HP or badge power. While having higher HP is helpful, badge power is the best stat to increase, as the higher badge power you have, the more badges you can equip, which do various things like being able to use different attacks, or make Mario and his partner stronger when at a certain HP level. Even in a normal run, badge power should be the preferred stat to increase. After learning plane mode, a curse that transforms Mario into a paper plane, instead of going to the pedestal in front of the Thousand-Year Door like normal, Mario backtracks to the room where you fight Blooper, and where the pipe leading to Chapter 1 is. In a normal run, you would fight Blooper here, but this battle can be entirely skipped, using a trick called Blooper Skip. To perform Blooper Skip, you need to reach the boat panel by jumping on the first frame when entering the room, and then jumping again, frame perfectly, as soon as you touch the ground. On the boat panel, you can then enter the water, and when this happens, instead of respawning by the boat panel like you normally would, the game respawns you at the coordinate 0, 0, which essentially means the very center of the room. This happens to be just far enough right to land on the platform where the pipe leading to Chapter 1 is. What you're seeing is called the hazard respawn glitch. How it works is the game needs at least 2 frames to properly update Mario's hazard respawn coordinates, a hazard being something like fire or water. But the game doesn't attempt to do this once Mario makes it onto objects, like the boat panel. And because the game runs at 60 frames per second, that means you only have 1/60th of a second anytime you need to make a frame-perfect jump or input. But where is the pipe leading to Chapter 1? It's actually still there, and works. It's just not visible, as the pipe only spawns after defeating Blooper. The best part of the Blooper Skip is that it means you get to bring Professor Frankly into Petal Meadows, something the game, nor the professor, ever intended. There's another hazard respawn glitch that can be used in Petal Meadows to skip the bridge build and save time. For some reason, in this area, the hazard respawn coordinates don't start updating until you cross this line. So you're able to do 1 frame perfect jump, land on this candy cane object, which, like the boat panel, won't update the hazard respawn coordinates, and then jump into the water. This respawns Mario on top of the water like Jesus Christ or something. And then, after 1 more frame perfect input as Mario stands up to jump off the water, you will respawn on the other side of the river. After leaving the mayor's house, Mario receives his first email, telling Mario all about this video's sponsor. If you love Pokemon and the feel of Stardew Valley, then you'll probably love Portal Fantasy. Portal Fantasy is a creature collecting online RPG adventure, where you collect creatures, known as portals, to aid in turn-based battles as you make your way across different worlds, using portals of course, while also solving many different puzzles and obstacles. What makes Portal Fantasy different from the other creature collecting games is that by gathering ingredients, you can fuse different portals together to enhance your team, with hundreds of combinations waiting to be discovered. Like your boy Toadshroom here, I already know what he's going to be used for. Portal Fantasy releases on Steam on April 16th for only $19.99, and for the first 7 days, you can purchase the game for 10% off, which is much cheaper than any Switch 2 game you're gonna get. And in the rare case you own a game called Coromon, then you can get Portal Fantasy for 20% off. There will also be Twitch drops during Steam Next Fest and launch. From April 16th to May 7th, you can grab yourself some 100% capture scrolls, which I'm assuming are like Master Balls, and tasty healthy potions, as well as an Ani outfit and a kit soon familiar. And if you sign up for Portal Fantasy's email list, then you will also receive an exclusive Blue Cat familiar at launch. Because who doesn't want a blue cat? Thank you to Portal Fantasy for sponsoring this video, and now let's portal back to the video. After Mario makes his way through Schwank Fortress to collect the 2 stone keys, and after joining up with Koops, it's time to enter the Castle of Hooktail, a ferocious dragon that protects one of the crystal stars. But Mario doesn't care about the crystal star, and yeah, sorry Koops, we don't care about your missing father either. Mario is only going into the castle to 1. Learn Paper Mode, a curse that allows Mario to turn sideways and fit through small gaps, as this ability will be needed throughout the run. But 2. To pull off the most tedious, annoying, and time-consuming glitch in this run, the Important Things Duplication, or Key Item Duping glitch, which in this run is used to duplicate castle keys, an item that is used to unlock doors in the castle, and an item that takes up space in the Important Things inventory. The Important Things inventory can hold 121 items, and the goal is to use the Key Item Duping glitch to max out this inventory. We'll see why this is important later on, but duplicating items is possible when you hammer and pause the game on the same frame. This causes Mario to continuously hammer even though the pause menu is up. And obviously because of the pause menu, we can't see this happening. A player, or maybe coder is the best term, by the name of Solidified Gaming, discovered this glitch 4 years ago, and also learned that leaving the game paused like this for 90 seconds causes the event stack to overflow due to the dust puffs being spawned by the hammer. The 1000-Year Door has an internal scripting language that is used for things like setting up objects or NPCs when loading a room, and each time a script is executed, it is done as an event entry. Mario's hammering is done using an event, and so this means by pause buffering Mario's hammer, you can create as many events as you want, while also preventing those events from completing until you unpause. If you do this enough times to fill up the 256 available event entry slots, which Solidified Gaming learned takes about 90 seconds, then any events created after that point will overflow into the section of memory after the last slot, meaning it won't be executed. But you only have a number of frames after unpausing before the events will end and open up all their slots again. Solidified Gaming originally applied this glitch in the Palace of Shadows, where they were able to pick up the key for the lock dropped by Dark Bones without advancing the sequence values. More on that later. But what this meant is they were able to re-enter the room with the first key, open the lock with it, and then pick up a second key that spawned, thus duplicating the item. But it wasn't until April 17th, 2024, that a player by the name of Sejoric confirmed that the same glitch can work on Hooktail's castle keys. And it was in this moment the speedrunning community learned the 0 Crystal Star run was possible. All this is to say that when unpausing at the correct time during the hammer animation, you can grab the key and it will still be there when you reload the room. Unpausing at the correct time can be very inconsistent, as you need to unpause on one of a few frames of Mario's hammering animation, or the trick will fail. And failing the trick would mean having to reset the game to the last save block, because failing means the key won't be there when you reload the room. JakeBopDart said in his run, he had to reset over 50% of the time, and this is why players choose to duplicate the second key in the red bones room you would typically get, because the distance and time to the save block is faster. This glitch is so annoying that the current world record holder in the speedrun category, Kope, created a tool that looks like this to help with unpausing at the correct time. How it works is you would press a hotkey at the same time you pause, which would start the tool. Then you would just need to watch the tool, and try to time closing the pause menu as the lighter blue bar reaches and touches the darker blue bar. Ideally, the castle key is duplicated 60 times, and assuming this is done perfectly 60 times in a row, you're looking at least an hour and a half here of duplicating, which really just involves sitting in the pause menu waiting, and that doesn't include the time it takes to leave and reload the room. For JakeBopDart, it took him 4 hours in his run to duplicate 50 castle keys because of the amount of times he needed to reset. And to complete this run, about 100 items will need to be duplicated, so he still had a lot more hours to put in. This is probably why there are only 2 players on the leaderboard. If you're wondering why not just duplicate the castle key enough times to max out the important things inventory, then it's because there'll be some time to kill later on in this run, so players choose to do more duplicating during that time. Again, I'll explain why this duplicating bullshit is so important later on. After duplicating the castle keys enough times, it's time to leave Hooktail's castle. But before heading back to Rogueport, Mario goes back into Petalburg to collect the Mega Rush P badge, which requires paper mode to grab. When this badge is equipped, the attack power of Mario's partner increases by 5 points when they enter peril, which happens when their HP reaches exactly 1. This is a very powerful badge, especially when working alongside other badges that activate when partners are in peril or danger being 2 to 5 HP. We'll see just how powerful this is later on. Mario then heads back into the sewers of Rogueport to this area, where the hazard respawn glitch is utilized again to get on top of the big block here, as this is the center of the room, allowing Mario to get to the other side without the use of the super hammer, which would require going to Glitzville to get, and then once again in the next room to get on top of the stone block, which would require the ultra hammer to break. This is all done to get to the west side of Rogueport, since Zesty is a little bitch. Once in the west side, Mario uses paper mode to fall through the sewer grate and then jump his way to this area of the underground, where the biggest sequence break of the run is completed, known as Teleporter Room Early. In this room is a teleporter that connects Rogueport to the Naut fortress on the moon, but this room is locked from the inside, and in a normal run, would only be accessed after beating Chapter 7. But as the name Teleporter Room Early suggests, this room can be accessed much earlier, like right now. To get into the teleporter room from here, we first need to talk about unspin jumps. By releasing the R button and jumping on the exact same frame, Mario does an unspin jump, where Mario can instantly move at full speed while he's still unspinning from paper mode. When doing this, Mario's hitbox is smaller than usual for a brief period of time. Unspin jumps is simply unspinning from paper mode while jumping. Now, this is quite technical, but by walking against the door at a perfect angle of minus 358 degrees and unspin jumping within a couple frames as Mario passes the door crack, Mario has just enough speed and his hitbox is just small enough to clip through the door, where from there you can simply press the switch and take the teleporter straight to where you'd be if you were in Chapter 7. The only thing is, you're not actually in the Chapter 7 sequence yet, not until you go into this room and read this red note. Doing this updates the game's sequence to a point in Chapter 7, and that's because the game operates on sequence values, numbers that determine where exactly in the story you are. There's a sequence value for a lot of things. Sometimes it's on item pickups, like Hooktail's castle keys. Sometimes it's talking to an NPC, or a cutscene. And sometimes it's on interactions with objects, like the red note here. After answering some questions to get the red elevator key, and then getting the security key on cell level 2, Mario uses the teleporter to teleport back to Rogueport. Something Professor Frankly doesn't have to use apparently, since I guess he can teleport himself? Now it's time to get what is called jump storage. By setting up Coop's field action, which is shell toss, on the right wall of the teleporter room, Mario is able to move for a few frames, and this is called Coop's buffer. When doing this before opening the door, Mario gets jump storage, where the game thinks Mario is jumping, even though he isn't. And it looks like this. Mario gains infinite height when jumping, which speedrunners call super jumping. How this works is that Coop's shell toss is interrupted by opening the door, and since Coop's is slightly off screen, there's an additional frame of delay before he can get back to Mario. Mario can be controlled for a few frames after pressing X before this action happens. So by doing this, and by opening the door on the right frame, you store the jump action started by the shell toss. But the game knows Mario is on solid ground when his y-axis velocity is 0 or less. And so when trying to jump with jump storage, Mario won't be able to jump, like at all, and jump storage will be lost. To get around this, you have to increase Mario's y-axis velocity by walking up a step. From there, you can jump while holding the A button to gain infinite height, which Mario does here to get on top of the Ultra Hammer chest. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, is not the intended way of getting the Ultra Hammer. Once on the Ultra Hammer chest, Mario carefully jumps off and opens the chest as he falls in front of it to collect the hammer, which will be useful for a glitch later on. And since the Ultra Hammer isn't connected to any sequence, this means the game still thinks Mario is in Chapter 7. Next, Mario needs Double Dip, a badge that when equipped, allows Mario to use 2 items in one turn at the cost of 4 flower power, or FP, and one that will be very useful to have for some future battles. In a normal run, getting the Double Dip would require Boat Mode, another curse similar to Plane Mode that turns Mario into a paper boat when on a boat panel. But instead, Mario can do a trick called Spin Delay off this little wooden awning over the window in front of Professor Frankly's house. Whenever you're too close to a ceiling, which in this case is anything the game determines to be too close to the top of Mario's hitbox, and then spin into paper mode, you enter a glitch state of paper mode that has some weird properties. This trick delays Mario either from entering or exiting paper mode, resulting in a state where Mario can move around normally and even interact with stuff. The door is opened in this state, but since Mario is walking too slow because he's in paper mode, he can't make it through the door before it closes, so he gets stuck outside. This trick unloads a lot of collision. Collision referring to stuff that Mario can't normally move through, like a wall, which allows you to just walk straight to the chest here and grab the double dip badge. From here, Mario then goes to the Trouble Center, a place where various characters post their troubles that they need assistance with. Every time Mario completes a chapter, more troubles will be added to the list. As of right now, no chapters have been completed, but because the game thinks Mario is currently in Chapter 7, all but 6 troubles are available. Mario takes on Cooppook's trouble, who doesn't even need help. He pretty much just wants to play hide and seek and have someone find him. Mario obliges, and has to trek back to Hooktail's castle to find him here. What's funny is that when leaving the Trouble Center after taking on this trouble, Professor Frankly's front wall is missing because of all the unloaded collision. Wait a minute, is that Professor Frankly in there? And if so, then who is this? Finding Cooppook completes his trouble, and for Mario's efforts, he receives a special card, which allows Mario to play the playing game at the piano parlor. How exciting! But more importantly, the special card counts as an item in the Important Things inventory, which again, needs to be maxed out at 121 items to complete the 0 Crystal Star run. However, this is just an extra bonus of completing this trouble. The true reason this specific trouble is taken on is because after completing it, behind the scenes, the game starts a 2-hour timer, where at the end of the 2 hours, Mario will receive an email in Rogueport Station, and this email will be used to complete an upcoming glitch there. And you have to make sure you're in a specific spot in Rogueport Station before the 2 hours are up, otherwise you won't be able to do the glitch. As far as speedrunners know, this is the only location you can receive that email, and it goes off in-game time, so don't be thinking you can change the console's clock to help speed things along. But until then, Mario has 2 hours to burn, and this is the time to kill I mentioned earlier that will be used to duplicate more important things. But before that, Mario goes back to the Trouble Center to take on Frankie's trouble, which to complete requires going back to the west side using the long way. At least this time Mario has a hammer he can use to break down these blocks. Here Mario meets Frankie, who tells Mario he lost his wedding ring. In the Japanese version of the game, which if you haven't noticed by now, is the version being played here, the wedding ring is found on top of the wall guarded by Gus. And if you've been wondering, speedrunners prefer playing the Japanese version because it's easier to complete an in-game glitch in that version compared to the US version. Apparently the spin delay is also exclusive to the Japanese version, giving speedrunners even more incentive to play this version. To get the ring, Mario first gets jump storage, sells some items so he has 30 coins, does the spin delay trick to get into the Trouble Center, cancels the trouble he signed up for, which costs 30 coins, and then super jumps from here to get onto the roof and grab the wedding ring. Normally when you cancel a trouble, any key items gained during it will be returned, but since the trouble is cancelled before grabbing the ring, it's not removed. And so when Mario takes on the trouble again, there will be another ring to grab, and this is done so that when the wedding ring is returned to Frankie, there will be another one taking up space in the Important Things inventory. There's also a lot of setup done in this part of the run, like selling badges to sell for coins, or in the case of the world record holder Koppe, winning at slots to get coins. Mario also buys a badge in this shop to help with the endgame fights, the Power Rush P, a badge that increases the strength of Mario's partner when they are in danger. The great thing about this badge is that it stacks on top of other equipped badges that activate when Mario's partner is in peril or danger. But this shop only sells one of these badges. I haven't touched on this yet, but throughout the run, speedrunners will collect badges so that they can sell later on for coins, as well as star pieces that can be used to buy more badges and then sell for more coins. Coins are important in this run because they are used to buy important badges like Power Rush B, but as well as some other important items which I'll talk about a bit later. After returning the wedding ring to Frankie, Mario is awarded the gold card, another important thing, but also an item that allows Mario to buy exclusive gold card member badges at the Piano Parlor shop, like Power Rush P badges. And this shop sells more than just the one. These badges are very powerful when you have multiple equipped. That's why speedrunners take on Frankie's trouble, so that they can buy more of these badges with the gold card. After buying these badges, it's back to Mario's favorite place, the Trouble Center, where he takes on Jolene's trouble. But it'll be a while before he does anything with this, because next, it's back to the moon to finish duplicating important things, specifically the keycard in Grotus' office. The amount of times the keycard needs to be duplicated depends how many times the castle key was duplicated in Hooktail's castle. You just want to make sure between the two items that they are duplicated about 100 times. JakeBopDart said duplicating the key card here felt more consistent than the castle key, as he only had to reset 10% of the time at most, and was able to duplicate 21 key cards in a row before having to reset. What adds even more pressure is there's a 2-hour timer to keep in mind, and it's important to make it to Rogueport Station before the 2 hours are up. Before teleporting back to Rogueport, Mario makes sure to grab the other card keys throughout the Naut fortress and unlock the door leading to the Magnus 2.0 battle, so that when he comes back later on with a full inventory, he can just walk in. So far in this adventure, the only partners Mario has is Koops and Goombella, but there's one more partner Mario needs. A partner that has a secret hidden ability needed to beat the game. It's our beloved Yoshi. Yoshi is a partner that joins Mario in Chapter 3 of the game, which takes place in Glitzville. So that's where Mario needs to head to next. Getting to Glitzville in a normal run requires getting a blimp ticket from Dom Pianta after finding his daughter. But all that can be skipped with another major sequence break, called Blimp Ticket Skip. By getting into a very precise position in front of the Excess Express's door, there is a small gap that Mario can clip through by performing an unspin jump against. This is where the email I mentioned earlier comes into play. By buffering Koop's field action into an email trigger, you store the jump action started by the shell toss. That's why it's important to be in the spot before the 2-hour timer is up, because from here, Mario can get positive Y velocity off the rail and super jump all the way over an invisible wall to the pipe that leads to the blimp. Or if you're really cool, super jump all the way to the blimp in the background without taking the pipe. Either way, the goal is to get to the blimp that takes you to Glitzville, one of my favorite places in the game. And we're immediately leaving. Don't worry, we're coming straight back. This is only done because when you first arrive at Glitzville in a post-Chapter 3 sequence, Glitzville will be in the state it's in where everyone's saying goodbye after the intermission. And in this state, the guards don't move, not until you leave and come back, which is normal at this point in the game. But for some reason, even when coming back, the security guards still don't move, but Mario can just sneak by them and start taking on minor league fights without having to talk to Jolene. From here, it's just playing out the chapter as normal, winning fights, and climbing up the ranks until Yoshi joins the party. What's interesting is while in the Chapter 7 state, you skip the whole egg stuff that you would do in a normal run. That's because the game only lets Mario have one follower at a time, which are different from partners. So at some point, the game replaces Frankly with the Yoshi egg. We just don't actually see the egg. And so when it does hatch into Yoshi, Professor Frankly is gone. I like to think this is where Professor Frankly finally decided he's had enough of this shit. Right after getting Yoshi, Mario goes and talks to Jolene to do her trouble that he took on earlier, which involves cleaning out garbage in the storeroom. The garbage is 20 pairs of battle trunks. Completing this trouble would involve going back to Rogueport and giving the trunks to Goomfrey to dispose of. But Mario's not going to do that. Instead, he's going to hold on to the trunks. And no, it's not so he can get a whiff of them whenever he wants. It's because these trunks are considered important things. And so collecting these 20 trunks maxed out the important things inventory, assuming you did enough duplicating beforehand. Before leaving Glitzville, Mario buys some point swaps, an item that allows Mario to swap his HP and FP, which will be very useful for the final fights ahead. And then in Rogueport sells more badges and buys more Power Rush Ps at the Pianta Parlor. With that out of the way, Mario is ready to head back to the moon. But before using the teleporter, he stores another jump storage, which is used to super jump and skip over using the conveyor belt in the factory room leading to the Magnus 2.0 battle. Coming into this battle, Mario has only leveled up 3 times, and this battle can be pretty tough in a normal run where Mario would have leveled up a lot more than only 3 times. So how could we even do this? I mean, Goombella is already ready to faint, having only 1 HP left. Well, having Goombella this hurt is intentional, and ties into the powerful strategy that is Power Rush stacking. As I mentioned earlier, Mega Rush is a badge that increases the strength of Mario's partner when they are in danger or peril, which is the case for Goombella in this battle. Having Goombella at 1 HP activates the Mega Rush P badge, as well as the 5 Power Rush P badges equipped, which takes Goombella's base damage from 1 all the way to 20. Using this strategy means Magnus 2.0 can be taken out in just 2 turns, and this is why increasing badge power is so important. Defeating Magnus 2.0 means completing Chapter 7, which, like almost all chapters, means collecting the Crystal Star. Now, I know what you're thinking. What the fuck? I thought this was a video on beating Paper Mario the 1000-Year Door without collecting any Crystal Stars. And it is, technically anyways. Hear me out. Crystal Stars are secretly considered important things, meaning they take up space in the inventory. They just aren't visible. It's the same thing for things like the map, Boots and Hammer, and the different transformation modes. So if the important things inventory is maxed out, which is the case here due to all the item duplicating done in Hooktail's Castle, Naut Fortress, and those 20 smelly trunks, the Crystal Star isn't added to the inventory. And we know that for sure because it's not even on the Crystal Star tab in the pause menu. So yeah, technically the 7th Crystal Star is collected, but at the same time also technically not. Before you potentially attack me in the comments that the title of this video is misleading, the official name of the speedrun category is 0 Crystal Stars, so take it up with them. After leaving the Naut fortress, it's finally time to unlock the 1,000-year door. But before doing that, Mario visits the Trouble Center one last time to cancel Jolene's trouble, as canceling a trouble will return any key items gained during it, like the Battle Trunks. This is done to free up space in the Important Things inventory so that Mario can collect some keys in Chapter 8. Once on the pedestal in front of the 1,000-year door, because Chapter 7 was completed, the game thinks Mario collected all 7 crystal stars, even though he technically hasn't collected any, and so the door is opened. From here on out, the rest of the run is played out like the any percent route. Mario uses the hazard respawn glitch in the fire bar room by hovering and holding right on Yoshi, and then running into the fire bar to respawn to the middle of the room. Then Mario uses the encounter with the Phantom Ember at just the right time in the fire bar cycle to use the invincibility frames you get when running from a battle to run through the fire bars. In the next room, there is an unskippable battle against Dark Bones that is won using a similar strategy to that used in the Magnus 2.0 battle. Mario then levels up and increases his HP stats to help survive the final battle. Now, if you played the 1,000-year door before, you might be wondering, how can you even finish the game? You don't have Bobbery to blow up the statues, revealing the pipe to the switch that reveals the boat panel to Riddle Tower. You also don't even have boat mode. You don't have Flurry to reveal one of the keys in Riddle Tower, or the Ultra Boots to get past the Spike Room. But none of that matters, because of a trick called Palace Skip, which is made up of multiple different glitches. It's quite lengthy and complicated, so get comfortable. In a normal run, you would defeat Gloomtail to get the Star Stone, complete Riddle Tower, use the Star Stone to activate the rooms in Riddle Tower, and then insert all 8 Palace Keys to lower the floor in the room before Gloomtail. Lowering the floor makes certain loading zones accessible, and the goal with Palace Skip is to reach this loading zone without ever lowering the floor. In the room before Gloomtail, you can use a glitch called Tech Storage, which requires both an item and an enemy in the same room. The first step is to kill this Phantom Ember, and when you kill it, you need it to drop an item. It's recommended to buy the Item Hog badge from Dazzle earlier on in the run, as it boosts the likelihood of items being dropped from battle. Without it, the chances of getting an item drop from an enemy are only 2.6%. But with Item Hog equipped, those chances jump up to 20.1%. The chances are even higher when an enemy is already holding an item. In this situation, without Item Hog, the chances of an item drop are 27.6%, and with Item Hog, the chances are 36.8%. Fortunately, there's a save block in this room, so you can just save and reset if you don't get an item drop. If you're wondering how these numbers were calculated, then I couldn't tell you. But a player named JakeBopDart, who's a genius when it comes to the 1,000-year door battle mechanics, wrote a whole article on the topic. I'll link it in the description in case you want to know more. Once the Phantom Ember drops an item, you then need to get the item in the right spot, which you can do by having a full inventory of items and dropping the item. The item needs to be near the edge of the second Phantom Ember's moving range. Once the item is in the right spot, you'll then need to do what are called neutral jumps, in order to prevent Goombella from following Mario over to the item. These jumps can be done by neutralizing the control stick during the jump input, holding the direction towards the item while in the air, then letting go of the stick before landing. From here, Goombella can be used for a few frames before grabbing the item, which will delay Goombella's text box for an extra frame, resulting in grabbing the item first. This is called a delayed Goombella buffer. Grabbing an item freezes time, so when you toss the item, time continues, and Goombella's text pops up. Although Mario is unable to move during this, if close enough to the Phantom Ember, it will eventually initiate a battle, but you can run away from the battle with the text still up. Typically, you need to mash the A button to run away from the battles, but this would just close the text box, which you don't want. So instead, you need to mash the Z and A buttons at the same time to increase the runaway bar without closing the text, as pressing Z scrolls the text box backwards. Once you make it out of the battle with text storage, next, you need to get Yoshi inside of the wall. This requires going to this exact spot in front of the middle of this arch, between the wall and the yellow line on the ground. You then need to face left and charge an Ultra Hammer spin, but only 2/3 of the way where Mario spins twice. Now you need to have the Phantom Ember initiate another battle. Swap to Yoshi, then run away. When you run away from the fight, Yoshi will be out of bounds and inside the wall. Right after the encounter, you'll want to enter paper mode and move down to the yellow line and wait for the Phantom Ember to notice you. After this, you'll go upright till you're behind the Ember, and when it notices you again, it will go all the way down to the ground. Then move left in front of Yoshi and exit paper mode. And ideally, open the pause menu exactly 3 frames after Mario begins to unspin from paper mode. The last step in all this is called Yoshi Teleport. If you use Yoshi a few frames after closing Goombella's text box, you'll teleport to Yoshi's Y coordinate, which should be just right for Mario to clip into the floor, but still be high enough to first strike the Phantom Ember, which you need to do to force Mario off of Yoshi. Once again, run from the battle, and as long as you're holding right up after the encounter, you'll fall into the loading zone below, The palace skip is very technical, and a lot of it definitely goes over my head. So I'd recommend watching JakeBopDart's video on the any percent route, which explains the glitch in more detail and a lot better. This video was also a big resource in helping me make this video. I'll link the video in the description. From here, Mario grabs the castle key in this room, uses plane mode over to this door to unlock it, and then it's a series of cutscenes and boss fights, including Grottis and Bowser and Kammy Koopa. The strategy to defeat Grottis is using an attack item like Shooting Star or Ice Storm to get rid of the Grottis' X's, and then, thanks to Double Dip, a badge that lets Mario use 2 items in one turn, use Point Swap on Yoshi so that his HP and FP swap, putting Yoshi into peril, and thus increasing his attack power so that he can ground pound Grottis to death. This is why the FP stat is never increased in this run, because Double Dip requires 4 FP to use, leaving only 1 FP left that is then swapped with HP, so that Mario's partner can immediately go into peril and thus activate the Mega and Power Rush P badges. For Bowser and Kammy Koopa, Yoshi immediately takes out Kammy Koopa, and then shortly does the same to Bowser. It was now time for the final battle of the game, the Shadow Queen, who has used Peach's body as a vessel. This battle can be broken down into 3 phases. Phase 1 can be dealt with pretty easily by double dipping a point swap on Yoshi, and thus putting Yoshi into a peril state, and then ground pounding 3 times. In Phase 2, the Shadow Queen is invincible, and only after attacking the Shadow Queen at least once per turn for 3 turns will this phase end. So the strategy is just surviving 3 turns, making mushrooms and guarding very important. Boo Sheets, an item that makes Mario or a partner invisible for 2 turns, are also very useful here. Before the final phase starts, Peach is able to break through her exorcism long enough to heal Mario and Yoshi, and the battle is on. The strategy in this phase is similar to the first phase. Double dip and use a point swap and Boo Sheet on Yoshi, then ground pound with Yoshi to deal massive damage. Between turns, attempt to guard attacks in case Mario is targeted too many times, or use mushrooms to heal. By the 3rd turn, the Shadow Queen should have taken enough damage where 3 or 4 more ground pounds from Yoshi is enough to finish her off. And that's it. That's beating Paper Mario the 1000-Year Door without collecting any crystal stars. Technically. I had so much fun making this video on one of my favorite video games of all time, and learning how truly busted the game is. And I couldn't have done it without the huge help of JakeBopDart, one of only 2 players to be on the leaderboard, and MuzYoshi, who is one of the main players to help figure out the 0 crystal star route. Before making this video, I wanted to attempt to challenge myself, but after seeing how technical and precise some of the glitches are, and the amount of time required, which I don't have much of these days between working a full-time job and YouTube, I decided I would just highlight the amazing players that made it all possible. But I was able to pull off the blooper skip, so who knows, maybe one day I can be the 3rd person on the leaderboard. I hope you found this video informative and entertaining. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and comment what you thought was the craziest glitch. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. I want to give a shout out to our A-button masters on Patreon: Rebecca Lyons, LeBurb, Puddles Megan, KoiKoi13, Liam Helt, Serena Bliss, Texas_14, Nice Gamer Music, and Blue Pikmin is the best Pikmin, and if you say otherwise, then Louie will eat your soul. Also, this is a completely real name.